Friday, everybody. My name is Amy with Relativity Sells, here with Danny Leonard from Ramped Careers. So excited to have you on, Danny.
Yeah, excited to be here. Great to see you.
Yeah, great to have you on. And I know your company is specializing in helping train, people that want to get into sales and helping really match with the right company to work for. So I thought today we could talk about things that folks can look for when they're making their first sales hire, interview questions that they can make. And so when you're working with some of these early stage companies that need to make their first sales hire, what should they kind of start with? How what position should they kind of fill, and what things do they need to look for?
Yeah, so great question. I have a perspective on this because I've helped dozens of businesses spin up their first sales team. So it kind of depends on where you are in that life cycle. So I would say folks sometimes look for a salesperson to be like a catch-all and just solve the sales problem. So if you're in that zone of I'm still testing out product market fit, I don't necessarily have beta customers, and I'm looking for who is actually going to be in my market, that's when I would say it's founder led. It has to be the founder taking on that onus as kind of like the key salesperson. Now, if you've graduated past that, and by that I mean it looks like for some businesses with shorter sales cycles and businesses that maybe have smaller deals, you could probably be in that like 25 to 50 closes. For enterprise level sales that are looking for massive deals and looking for big partnerships, you're probably in that like 1 to 5 closes range.
Yeah.
My recommendation is to start with an SDR. So that's somebody to handle the outbound pressure, the outbound flow and sales motion. And if you can afford it, at the same time, somebody like a customer success or account management person. And how I like to build sales teams is you still as founder, load yourself up with as many deals as you possibly can until that breaks. And at that point, bring on the AE. So to answer more directly, the first hire I'd like to make is outbound SDR. Next, very shortly after is the AM, and then the AE finally when you have kind of the SDR and AM motion built out.
Yeah, totally. And, it's always interesting as founders, we get a little bit excited, we find a little bit of product market fit, and then we think, oh, we're good. And we can just hire a sales team. And so I love your recommendation of really proving that out and going through the process yourself, documenting the process so that when, you're ready to bring on a salesperson, like you have confidence that they're going to be able to take the reins and be able to enable them for success.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And there's no magic bullet in sales, as you know, Amy. So, expecting somebody to come in and act as a hero or play, the unicorn role, that's really tough and a lot of pressure to put on a salesperson. Not that it can't be done. It's just, you should level set expectations, do some of the work so they're set up for success.
Yeah, nobody can have the passion like you do as a leader and a founder, right?
Right.
Yeah, totally. So when you're going through and you're interviewing for like a business development rep, what are some of the key questions to ask in this environment now that we're in a remote selling environment, now that we're in definitely a shift with a lot of employees, maybe changing industries? Are there certain things that you think we should ask now that maybe we weren't asking 5 years ago?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say there are certain things that you look for, and there's questions that you ask on most SDR BDR interviews. So the basic ones that you should certainly ask are tell me about yourself or walk me through your resume, and the answers you could expect there. While folks don't have a ton of experience in this role, have they shown entrepreneurial experience? Do they like talking to people? Do they want to communicate outbound? Do they face rejection in a way that's productive for sales? You've got to ask the why sales question. Every single sales interview, you have to ask that, especially at the SDR, BDR level. Yeah. And the reason you have to ask that as salespeople need to know what they're getting into, and they need to know that this is not just a role to get into a startup. and
Mhm.
then get to any other role. While sometimes that can be an avenue if you crush it as an SDR, they need to know what
Mhm.
they're gearing up for a career. Sales is a career. So they should
Yeah.
treat it like that and not just see it as, hey, I'm jumping in. And then a question I like to ask on every single SDR, BDR interview is some variation of the hustle or determination or grit question, which is, tell me about a time where you struggled in the past. You thought things were really, really dire and you couldn't work your way through it. And then you ended up conquering it and coming out on top, or you ended up learning something about yourself.
Yeah.
So, that kind of determination, next level uh, grit question is something I like to ask on SDR interviews as well. And then to answer the latter part of the question, where you talked about what do we look for now versus back then. I like to have I like to look for folks on a video call or folks on an interview that are well prepared for what they're going to face in the real world. So do they present themselves well on Zoom? Have they thought about their background? Have they chosen a somewhat professional or professional attire via Zoom? Are they do they have their camera on? I can't tell you how many
Right.
folks today still don't have their camera on in interviews. So I'm looking for attention to detail over Zoom.
Mhm.
And then again, you have to be almost more enthusiastic over Zoom than you would be in person or over the phone, because you're talking into a screen. So do they make good eye contact with the camera? Are they
Mhm.
using verbal cues to their advantage? Are they engaging productively with the person on the other side of the Zoom? So those are things that I now pay attention to more closely.
I love that. And I think video in general, asking them about their comfortability and experience using video, even in their day-to-day sales activity, because that is a great way now to really differentiate yourself over the emails and the abundance of LinkedIn InMail that, decision makers are getting right now.
That's right. That's right. And companies like Loom or Vidyard have done a really good job at making that really easy to engage with sales folks. Have they even thought about it?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. As companies continue to grow and they get into, more of being able to, hire the account manager, hire the AE, when do you kind of suggest that they, look at either role? Like, is there a certain revenue point that you think that maybe they should bring on an account executive, or should they really have somebody kind of, being the mother hen over the accounts and doing more of the account management piece?
Yeah, so uh, I'm less at the beginning phase, especially when you're in growth mode and you have that initial funding and probably off to the races.
Yeah.
And even if you're bootstrapped, I'm less concerned about a revenue number and more concerned about a general feeling.
Mhm.
And it's a little fluffy, I know, and not necessarily metrics based, but I think you'll know at this point. And what I look for is when you're bringing on customers and you start the onboarding process, are you, like, as founder, are you mentally struggling to keep everything in order with all of the rest of the responsibilities that you have, team building,
Yeah.
setting the culture, setting the vision, bringing in funding? So is that
Mhm.
becoming like a distraction, or are you not as excited about it, or do you feel like things are breaking? That's a dead giveaway that I think you need an AM. And
Mhm.
it's around a handful of deals, I think, where you actually probably need that. It's like the 5 to 10 range, 5 to 10 companies range. And
Yeah.
that's a generalization. If you're a bigger org with an enterprise deal that's millions of dollars, you may need that for the first one. So take
Right.
that,
Right.
based on what size. And then for the account executive hire, now that one I feel very strongly needs to be set up for success. And by that, I mean, uh, I would like an outbound engine somewhat built up and
Mhm.
reliable. And that looks like, you have that SDR hire in place. They're qualifying leads or booking demos with regularity. So the account executive is walking into a, 1 to 2 demo a day type of environment.
Yeah.
Um, and uh, and also I think that's a feel thing too. So if you're acting as primary closer as the
Mhm.
founder, are you just exhausted from the demos that SDR is putting on your plate? Do you just not have enough time for it? And have you gotten to a point where you feel like, I know a certain amount of steps to close that deal. So I know that if I give this type of demo, if I talk about this type of feature, or if I'm sharing this value and these asking about these pain points, do I know approximately that this deal will close? So it's a little bit of a feel, somewhat of a time period, handful of deals, and at that point, and are those components set up? Is the outbound engine set up? Is my tech stack set up? Those are some of the questions that I'd ask myself.
Yeah, I was recently listening to Tech Powered Sales. I think maybe Aaron Ross was a contributing author to that, and the folks that wrote Predictable Revenue. Now it's we have so much tech at our disposal. It's all about now leveraging some of those tools, and while you're going to make some investments up front, like the long-term return on that can be really huge. But I love your approach of the founder really needs to still be in touch during all of these stages to a degree until they get really comfortable, with their team. But it gives you a chance to really, as a founder, stay engaged with what does a customer need, so that you can bring in the information you're seeing from, the front of the house and from the direct client feedback, back to your team that's maybe developing your platform, right? And just continually going through that cycle.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's totally right.
Yeah, it's a process for sure. Well, good. Well, tell me a little bit about Ramp, to kind of where you guys, specialize and how you can help early stage or growth stage companies.
Yeah, of course. Love talking about Ramped. So Ramped is a platform for early career folks. Now we're specializing on sales, eventually much more than that, to get trained on all of the things that they would need to know to have great success in an entry level or early career sales role. So what does that look like? We offer module-based virtual digital learning approach to sales. We've distilled the SDR, BDR role on the tech sales side into some key components. And we also offer pathways for financial services sales, for medical device sales, for med tech sales. So we offer up a free course that's 100% free for students to access. We never make them sign a contract. We don't charge them anything at any point in time. They take the course. If they like what they're learning, they double down on it and complete the course and have marked high enough for us to then put them in front of corporate partners, which we source and find for our marketplace and for our platform. So folks can come in, learn for free. If they like the career pathway, great, they'll jump in, double down. And if they don't, in the future, we'll offer other career pathways. So you don't like sales, that's okay. We'll have a marketing pathway, a customer success pathway, all non-technical roles that you can check out on your own and just learn on your own. So think of it, kind of like the old school, Spark guides for investment banking, where you're learning a bunch about a role and you get to decide if you like it or not, instead of having to jump into a role and figure out 3 months later that you don't like it. And for founders and for early career folks or early stage companies, we offer the best and highest trained SDR sales development talent throughout the US. And we essentially shorten the hiring time from whatever you're doing now down to about 20 days. So you get vetted, trained talent instead of spray and pray, using Indeed, LinkedIn to just, luck your way into a hire. Well, typically you'll see about 5 profiles and you'll end up hiring 1.
That's amazing. That's really amazing that you're providing, that guidance to your candidates as well, because as you know, all of us that maybe have come from any kind of selling are really good at interviewing. And so as a founder, sometimes it's hard to weed through like who's really legit for our company, our culture, the role itself. And it's great that you're verticalizing some of your education so that they can stay specialized and get into it.
Yeah, thank you. We're happy with what we're doing, and obviously it's a feel good story to help somebody get a job and get their first career, and we love doing that.
That's great. Do you have any upcoming events that we should know about?
No events on the books right now, but you should certainly check out our site if you're an early career professional looking to jump into sales. It's rampcareers.com, and you can always engage with me directly on LinkedIn, on my LinkedIn page, or just hit me with an email, danny@rampcareers.com.
Awesome. We'll provide those links at the end of this recording as well for everybody. and appreciate, as I coach founders all over the country at Relativity Sells, it's just such a privilege to truly work with, especially technical founders that are learning revenue growth best practices, learning how to engage and hire for the first time in this way. So it is a pleasure to serve you all and appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thank you, Amy. Great to speak with you, and obviously great to catch up as well.